Hi guys, Corvin's Wargaming here. Today I have a book review, a short history of Russia's first civil war, the time of troubles, and the founding of the Romanov dynasty. Um, this book is an abridged version of the much longer work by the same author, Chester S.L. Dunning, who's a retired professor at Texas A&M. And it covers the period of about 1604 to almost 1620, when Russia was embroiled in a pretty destructive civil war and foreign intervention by Poland. And the book has a lot of really good military detail. I think that would be for you guys that are regular viewers of this channel. If you're trying to do an Eastern Renaissance army and you want to do Muscovites or Russians, this book has a lot of really good details. He describes the kind of military organization of the Russian forces at this time of the late 16th and early 17th centuries. And he gets into, how they were deployed and even their tactics. He discusses, the kind of role of the Cossacks and all of that. It's really has really good discussions of that stuff. And the time of troubles, just very briefly, it's kind of complicated, and the book, because of that, it's not really the writing is very clear in the book, but and it's a good read, but it's just the events are kind of complicated. There's a kind of succession struggle in Russia after the death of Ivan the Terrible's dynasty, and eventually in 1604 this leads to a pretender known as the Tsar, as the false Tsar Dmitri or false Dmitri. He is able to court Polish backing and launches this kind of civil war. Of course, there's there's government forces that resist, and this kind of terrible civil conflict unfolds in Russia over the next decade and a half almost, and eventually there is eventually a second false Dmitri later on in the conflict, but it is eventually concludes with the accession of the Romanov dynasty, who the Romanov kind of clan or noble family had not been that notable in the conflict, although they did play a role, but they were able to kind of position themselves to take over. And then in 1612, 1613 are the first years of Tsar Mikhail Romanov's rule, and he's the one that really pushes Russia into this even more robust imperialist direction. They conquer Siberia. They're able to defeat Poland. Eventually, in the mid to late 17th century, they're able to defeat the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth in a major war. So it's a very important period in Russian history. I think it's probably pretty unknown in the English-speaking world, or extremely obscure. I think most people's knowledge of Russia, current events aside, is rooted in, maybe knowing about the Soviet Union for the people that were alive, when it still existed, or maybe about the Bolshevik Revolution before that created the Soviet Union, and maybe during Russia's role during Napoleon. But I think this era of Russian history is fairly obscure, although for me, I think it's more interesting personally. But It's a really interesting book. Like I said, it is an abridged version, so there's no footnotes or bibliography, which I was kind of disappointed, but I know, not everybody's like a crazy historian like me, so, some people just skip that stuff, and that's fine, I guess. But it's not that long either. It is a really good abridgment, I think, because the full book is like 600 pages, and so it's 328 pages of text, so really manageable, I think. If you and it's well written too. That's also very important. It's a good read. Just to the prose is very good, and Dunning is really good at kind of weaving the analysis in with the narrative. In his conclusions, he gets at some interesting kind of ideas that I think he made a good case for about the consequences of this period, because he discusses how in kind of the Russian historiography, a little bit before the Soviet period, but also during the Soviet period, this was seen as a kind of peasant struggle. It didn't really have a kind of deeper resonance than that. But what he says is, the time of troubles really affirms to the Russian nobility and the Russian people, peasantry in some ways, that the importance of having a very pious and strong autocratic czar. He discusses how the boyars really benefited from a lot of this because of kind of some political and economic factors. A lot of the urban infrastructure in Russia was completely destroyed as a consequence of the war. So, and after the war, the population was, logically also heavily declined, and, because so many people died, that, there wasn't just a lot of incentive to continue urban kind of development into sort of manufacturing and, and trade and things like that. So it really kind of emphasized or really incentivized the kind of rural economy that would persist in Russia pretty much until the Soviet period. With some, aside from the pretty kind of major jumps that they did manage to achieve, that they did manage to undertake, but before and during the First World War. But it really kind of created the Russian system that would persist until then. That's his argument, and I think he makes a good case for it. Most people tend to kind of look at Peter the Great as the sort of launching point of modern Russia, let's say, but I think he shows that it has roots in this period, and kind of the creation, the foundation of the Romanov dynasty itself. And he says, and he argues that, kind of understandably so, Russia under Tsar Mikhail Romanov, who dies in 1657, they get all the way to the Pacific. They conquer so much territory. They have some successful, and then later on they'll have some successful wars with the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. So, all of that really tells the political establishment in Russia that, this seems to be working, so why do we need, there's no kind of need to develop along the lines that, let's say one of the Western European states did, or even, like the Ottomans or the Safavids, really, who were kind of more close to to Russia and Russia/Muscovy in some ways, in terms of organization and geography and that sort of thing. So I feel I'm not doing the book justice fully, but it's I highly recommend you check it out. It's published by Penn State University Press. I got this. They were having a sale where the book, I got it for $10. but I don't think it's that expensive of a book, and you can probably find it. It doesn't have the price on here, does it? But you can probably find it used, if I had to guess, because I'm thinking that they published this edition, this abridged edition, so you could like for you know, assignment, if you wanted to assign it to students or something in a class, or as kind of a desk reference type thing. But yeah, it's really interesting book, interesting period of history. If nothing else, you know, you can read the parts about just the military kind of issues that he brings up. He does describe some of the battles that took place. So yeah, I think it's a really interesting book, and if and when I can get the unabridged version of the book, I will maybe do a review with that on that one. So all right, thanks for watching. If you watched it to the end, I appreciate it. I think this was kind of rambling, but anyway, yeah. And just as a last bit of kind of channel housekeeping stuff, I'm not really feeling the painting bug lately. I'm maybe you know, I'll get it back, but I am working on Transylvanians, so you know, we'll keep working on these guys when I get a chance. And yeah, all right, well, with that, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one.